Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the small preparation room aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge. Her hands shook as she reviewed her notes one more time. Today was the day humanity would present their biological research to the Galactic Council. After 3 years as provisional members, this presentation could determine their future among the stars. Elena looked at her reflection in the metal wall. She was a small woman with dark hair tied back in a simple ponytail. Nothing about her appearance suggested she was about to change galactic history. She wore the standard Earth diplomatic uniform, a plain blue suit that looked simple compared to the elaborate clothing worn by other species. The ship hummed around her as it moved through space toward the council station. Elena could hear voices in the corridors outside. Other humans walked past her door, all preparing for different aspects of today's meetings. Some carried trade proposals, others had military alliance documents. Elena only had her research on human biology. She wondered if anyone would even care about her presentation. The other council species had technology that seemed like magic to humans. They could travel faster than light. They could create energy from nothing. They could build machines that thought for themselves. What could human biology possibly offer them? Ambassador Chen knocked on her door. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been Earth's main representative to the council for 2 years now. "Dr. Vasquez, are you ready?" he asked as he entered the room. "I think so," Elena replied, "though I still don't understand why they want to hear about human organs. These species have been traveling space for thousands of years. They must know everything about biology already." Ambassador Chen smiled. "You might be surprised. The council specifically requested biological information from all new member species. They want to understand what makes each race unique." Elena picked up her datapad containing her research. "I just hope I don't embarrass humanity up there." "You won't," Chen assured her. "Your work on human physiology is excellent. Just present the facts and let the science speak for itself." They walked together through the ship's corridors toward the docking bay. Other human delegates joined them. Elena recognized Dr. Martinez from the engineering team and Captain Williams from the military division. They all looked nervous but determined. The ship shook slightly as it docked with the council station. Elena felt her stomach drop. This was really happening. In a few hours, she would be standing before representatives of dozens of alien species, trying to explain why human biology mattered. The council station was enormous. As they walked through its corridors, Elena marveled at the architecture. The walls curved in impossible ways. Lights floated in the air without any visible source of power. Gravity seemed to work differently in different sections of the station. They passed other species in the hallways. Elena tried not to stare, but it was difficult. She saw tall, thin beings that looked like they were made of crystal. Their bodies reflected light in beautiful patterns as they moved. There were small furry creatures that traveled in groups and seemed to communicate through quick chirping sounds. One massive being floated past them, looking like it was made entirely of glowing energy. "Those are the Luminari," Chen whispered to her. "They're one of the oldest species in the council. They've been spacefaring for over 50,000 years. Elena felt even smaller. What could she possibly tell beings that old about biology? They reached the preparation area outside the main council chamber. Through the large windows, Elena could see the chamber itself. It was a vast circular room with seating areas arranged in tiers. Each section was designed for different types of beings. Some areas had special atmosphere domes. Others had different gravity fields. The chamber could hold representatives from every known species in the galaxy. "The chamber can accommodate up to 200 different types of beings," Chen explained. "Today we'll have about 60 species represented. Not bad for a routine presentation session." Elena's mouth went dry. 60 different alien species would be listening to her talk about human livers and kidneys. It seemed absurd. A being that looked like a giant insect approached them. It stood nearly 3 meters tall and had 4 arms. Its eyes were large and multifaceted, like a fly's eyes, but much bigger. When it spoke, the words came from a translation device attached to its chest. "Greetings, human delegates. I am Council President Thexmoran. We are pleased to have you present today." Ambassador Chen bowed slightly. "Thank you, President Thexmoran. We're honored to share our knowledge with the Council." The President's large eyes turned toward Elena. "Dr. Vasquez, your biological research has generated interest among our scientific community. Several species are curious about human physiology. Elena tried to speak but only managed a small squeak. She cleared her throat and tried again. I hope my research will be useful to the Council's knowledge base. I am certain it will be, the President replied. Please prepare yourselves. The session will begin in 15 minutes. As the President walked away, Elena felt panic rising in her chest. She looked at her notes again, but the words seemed to blur together. Elena, breathe, Chen said quietly. You know this material better than anyone. These beings are scientists and diplomats. They want to learn just like you do. Elena nodded and tried to calm herself. She had spent years studying human biology. She knew every organ system, every process, every detail of how the human body worked. This was just another presentation, like the hundreds she had given at medical conferences on Earth. The chamber doors opened, and the human delegation was invited inside. Elena followed Chen and the others into the vast room. The scale was overwhelming. Beings of every imaginable shape and size filled the seating areas. Some floated in special gas mixtures. Others stood on platforms that adjusted their height. The diversity was incredible. Elena took her place at the presentation podium. The translation system activated, and her voice would now be converted into whatever communication method each species used. Some heard words. Others received electrical signals. Still others felt vibrations or saw patterns of light. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Elena began, her voice steadier than she felt. I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, representing humanity's biological sciences. Today I will present our current understanding of human physiology and organ systems. She activated her holographic display. A three-dimensional image of the human body appeared above the podium, slowly rotating so all the delegates could see it clearly. Humans are carbon-based life forms with a centralized nervous system and a closed circulatory system powered by a four-chambered heart, Elena continued. Our bodies contain several organs that work together to maintain life. She highlighted different organ systems as she spoke. The respiratory system that processed oxygen, the digestive system that broke down food for energy, the nervous system that controlled everything else. One particularly interesting organ is the human liver, Elena said, highlighting the large organ in the abdomen. The liver performs over 500 different functions in the human body. It processes nutrients, filters toxins, and produces essential proteins. She paused, looking at her notes. The next part of her presentation would discuss the liver's most remarkable feature. Perhaps most notably, the human liver has extraordinary regenerative capabilities. A human can lose up to 75% of their liver tissue and regenerate the missing portions within 6 to 8 weeks. Elena looked up from her notes to gauge the audience's reaction. What she saw surprised her. The chamber had gone completely silent. Every being seemed frozen in place. The crystal beings were glowing brighter than before. The floating energy beings had stopped moving entirely. Something was happening, but Elena didn't understand what. The silence stretched on for several long seconds. Then suddenly the chamber erupted into chaos. The chaos in the council chamber was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. Delegates from dozens of species were speaking at once. The translation systems couldn't keep up with all the different languages and communication methods happening simultaneously. The result was a cacophony of sounds, lights, and vibrations that made Elena's head spin. President Thex Moran raised all 4 of his arms and activated an attention signal. A deep, resonant tone filled the chamber, cutting through the noise. Slowly, the delegates began to quiet down. Dr. Vasquez, the president said, his multifaceted eyes fixed on her. Please repeat your last statement about human liver regeneration. Elena looked around the chamber, confused by the reaction. I said that humans can regenerate up to 75% of their liver tissue within 6 to 8 weeks. This is a well-documented medical fact. The chamber erupted again, but this time the president was ready. He immediately activated the attention signal, restoring order more quickly. Are you certain of this claim? Asked a delegate from the crystalline beings. Their voice came through the translation system as a series of musical tones. You are stating that humans can regrow internal organs? Well, yes, Elena replied, still confused. The liver is the only organ that can fully regenerate, but it's a normal part of human biology. Medical procedures that remove parts of the liver are routine. The remaining tissue simply grows back. A delegate that looked like a large floating jellyfish pulsed with different colors as it spoke. Dr. Vasquez, could you explain this process in more detail? Elena activated her holographic display again, showing a detailed cross-section of the liver. When liver tissue is damaged or removed, the remaining cells begin dividing rapidly. They don't just form scar tissue like other organs. They actually create new, fully functional liver tissue. She highlighted different parts of the organ as she spoke. The process is controlled by growth factors and hormones. The regenerating liver maintains all its functions during the regrowth process. Blood flows through temporary vessels while new ones are formed. It's quite remarkable, actually. Remarkable indeed, said another delegate. This one appeared to be made entirely of metal, with glowing circuits visible beneath its surface. Dr. Vasquez, do humans possess regenerative abilities in other organs? Elena shook her head. No, the liver is unique in this regard. Other human organs can heal minor damage, but they cannot regenerate large portions of missing tissue. What about other human tissues? Asked a small, furry delegate from the group Elena had seen earlier. Can humans regrow limbs or other body parts? No, Elena replied. Humans can heal cuts and broken bones, but we cannot regrow lost limbs or other major body parts. Only the liver has true regenerative capability. Ambassador Chen stepped forward from where he had been sitting with the other human delegates. If I may ask, why is this information causing such a strong reaction? Is liver regeneration particularly unusual? President Thex Moran turned to address the entire chamber. Dr. Vasquez, Ambassador Chen, what you have described is unprecedented in our knowledge of galactic biology. No known species possesses the ability to regenerate internal organs. Elena felt her knees go weak. That's impossible. Surely some of your species must have regenerative abilities. I've read about salamanders on Earth that can regrow their tails. External appendages, yes, said the crystalline delegate. Several species can regrow limbs or other external body parts. But internal organs are far more complex. The level of cellular coordination required to regenerate functional organ tissue has never been observed in any spacefaring species. Dr. Kethvar, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin, stood up from the scientific advisory section. I am the Council's chief xenobiologist. I have studied the anatomy of over 300 intelligent species. None possess true organ regeneration. Elena stared at him in disbelief. But how do your species handle organ failure or damage? Cybernetic replacement, replied the metallic delegate. Artificial organs grown in laboratories. Organ transplants from cloned tissue. Various technological solutions. The Zephyrian Collective can redistribute biomass, added one of the furry delegates, speaking for the first time. If one member's organ fails, others can share the load through our neural network. But we cannot actually regenerate new tissue. The crystalline delegate's form brightened as it spoke. My people can repair damage to our silicon matrices, but the process requires rare minerals and takes decades. It is also extremely energy-intensive. Elena looked around the chamber, trying to process what she was hearing. Are you telling me that liver disease is a problem for your species? Liver disease is one of the leading causes of death among 17 council species, Dr. Kethvar replied gravely. Filtration organ failure accounts for millions of deaths across the galaxy each year. A new delegate stood up. This one was larger than most others and wore what looked like military armor. The hegemony of brass loses more warriors to toxin-damaged livers than to combat. Our society values strength and endurance, but our filtration organs are our greatest weakness. The archivists face similar challenges, said another delegate, this one appearing very old and frail. Our species lives for millennia, but our organs deteriorate with age. Many of our greatest scholars die when their filtration systems fail, taking irreplaceable knowledge with them. Elena realized she was witnessing something historic. A simple biological fact that humans took for granted was revolutionary to the galactic community. Dr. Vasquez, said President Thex Moran, could you provide more details about human liver function? Specifically, what types of toxins can the human liver process? Elena nodded, still somewhat stunned. The human liver can process a wide variety of toxins. Alcohol, which we consume recreationally, various medications and drugs, environmental pollutants, heavy metals to some degree. The chamber fell silent again. Elena could see delegates exchanging looks with members of their own species. Did you say alcohol? Asked the Zephyrian delegate. Ethanol is extremely toxic to our species. Even small amounts cause immediate organ failure. Caffeine causes fatal heart arrhythmias in my people, added the crystalline delegate. Yet I have observed humans consuming it regularly with no ill effects. Elena nodded. Yes, humans regularly consume both alcohol and caffeine. In moderate amounts, they're not harmful to us. The liver processes alcohol efficiently, and caffeine is metabolized by other organs. Dr. Kethavar was making rapid notes on a glowing tablet. Dr. Vasquez, would it be possible to study human liver tissue to understand the regenerative mechanism? Of course, Elena replied. We would be happy to share our medical research. But I should warn you that the regenerative process only works in living humans. Once the liver is removed from the body, it stops regenerating. Could humans potentially donate portions of their livers to other species? Asked the military delegate from the hegemony of brass. Ambassador Chen stepped forward quickly. That would require extensive research to determine compatibility. We wouldn't want to make any commitments without understanding the full implications. Elena could see the wheels turning in Chen's mind. He was beginning to realize the political and economic implications of what they had just revealed. We would need to establish proper research protocols, Elena added. Medical ethics would require extensive testing and safety studies before any cross-species procedures could be attempted. President Thex Moran nodded. Of course. But Dr. Vasquez, you must understand the significance of what you have shared today. This discovery could change medical treatment across the galaxy. Elena looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her. Some looked hopeful. Others appeared calculating. A few seemed concerned. She realized that her simple presentation about human biology had just made humanity one of the most important species in the galaxy. The question now was what they would do with that responsibility. The session was far from over, but Elena already knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency session of the Galactic Medical Consortium convened immediately after Elena's presentation. Word had spread quickly through the council station about humanity's regenerative abilities. Delegates who hadn't attended the original presentation were now crowding into the medical wing's conference rooms. Dr. Kethavar stood at the front of the largest conference room, addressing an audience of the galaxy's top medical experts. His pale blue skin looked even paler than usual as he processed the implications of what they had learned. Colleagues, he began, today we have witnessed a discovery that could revolutionize galactic medicine. The human species possesses true organ regeneration, specifically the ability to regrow functional liver tissue. The room buzzed with conversation. Elena sat near the front with Ambassador Chen and the other human delegates. She still felt overwhelmed by the attention her simple presentation had generated. Dr. Kethavar, interrupted a delegate from the hegemony of brass, could you explain why this discovery is so significant? My people are warriors, not scientists. Dr. Kethavar activated a holographic display showing medical statistics from across the galaxy. Liver failure is the #1 cause of death for 17 major species. The #3 cause for another 23 species. We estimate that organ failure accounts for approximately 40% of all deaths in the galactic community. The numbers appeared in the air above the gathering. Elena stared at them in shock. Billions of beings died each year from conditions that were easily treatable on Earth. For the hegemony of brass specifically, Dr. Kethavar continued, toxin exposure during combat operations damages liver function in 60% of your warriors. Many of your strongest fighters are forced to retire early due to organ failure. The brass delegate's metal armor clanked as he shifted in his seat. Our medical corps uses artificial filtration systems, but they are bulky and reduce combat effectiveness. The archivists face a different but equally serious problem, Dr. Kethavar said, turning to address the elderly-looking delegates from that species. Your people live for thousands of years, but your organs deteriorate over time. Liver failure claims many of your greatest scholars just as they reach the peak of their knowledge. An archivist delegate raised a trembling hand. We have lost 3 grand historians in the past century to organ failure. Their accumulated wisdom died with them. Elena stood up slowly. I'm sorry, but I need to ask something. How is this possible? Your species have been spacefaring for thousands of years. How have you not solved organ failure? Dr. Kethavar looked at her with what might have been admiration. Dr. Vasquez, that is exactly the right question. The answer is that we have been approaching the problem incorrectly. He changed the display to show various medical technologies used across the galaxy. We have focused on replacement and artificial enhancement. Cybernetic organs, clone tissue, technological solutions. We never considered that biological regeneration might be possible. But why not? Elena asked. Regeneration exists in nature on our planet. Many simple organisms can regrow lost parts. Simple organisms, yes, replied a delegate from the crystalline beings. But complex organ systems require precise coordination between millions of cells. The level of biological programming needed seemed impossible to achieve naturally. Dr. Kethvar nodded. We assumed that any species advanced enough for space travel would have evolved beyond such primitive biological functions. We believed that technology was the superior solution. Elena felt a mix of pride and confusion. So humanity is unusual because we kept our biological regeneration while developing technology? More than unusual, Dr. Kethvar said. Unprecedented. Most species either remain primitive with limited regenerative abilities, or they become technologically advanced and lose those abilities through evolution. A new voice spoke from the back of the room. Elena turned to see a delegate she hadn't noticed before. This being was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between different shades of green. I am Dr. Veltar from the Synthesis Union, the being said. We specialize in biotechnology. If humans can regenerate liver tissue, the implications extend far beyond medical treatment. Ambassador Chen leaned forward. What do you mean? Consider the applications, Dr. Veltar continued. Toxin processing, waste filtration, biological manufacturing. The human liver doesn't just regenerate. It performs hundreds of complex chemical processes. If we could understand and replicate these functions, Elena suddenly realized where this conversation was heading. You're talking about using human biology for industrial purposes. Among other applications, yes, Dr. Veltar replied. The economic value could be enormous. The room fell silent. Elena could see the human delegates exchanging concerned looks. This was moving beyond medical research into territory that made her uncomfortable. Before we discuss applications, Dr. Kethvar said carefully, we need to understand the science, Dr. Vasquez. Could you share more details about how liver regeneration works? Elena stood again, pulling up her research data on a portable display. The process involves several growth factors and cellular signals. When liver tissue is damaged, the remaining cells receive chemical signals that tell them to start dividing. She showed diagrams of the cellular process. The new cells aren't just generic tissue. They differentiate into all the specialized cell types found in a healthy liver. Blood vessels regrow. Bile ducts reform. The entire organ structure rebuilds itself. How long does this process take? Asked an archivist delegate. For minor damage, a few days to weeks. For major tissue loss, up to 2 months for complete regeneration, Elena replied. And the regenerated tissue is fully functional? Pressed Dr. Veltar. Completely. The new liver tissue performs all the same functions as the original. There's no loss of capability. The medical experts began asking technical questions faster than Elena could answer them. How were the growth signals controlled? What nutrients were required? Could the process be enhanced or accelerated? Ambassador Chen finally stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to slow down here. While we're excited to share our medical knowledge, we need to establish proper protocols for this research. What kind of protocols? Asked the brass delegate suspiciously. Medical ethics for one thing, Chen replied. Any research involving human subjects would need to follow strict safety guidelines. We also need to consider the implications of this discovery for humanity's status in the galaxy. Elena realized that Chen was thinking several steps ahead. This discovery had just made humanity incredibly valuable to the galactic community. But it had also made them potentially vulnerable. Are you suggesting restrictions on medical research? Dr. Kethvar asked. I'm suggesting cooperation, Chen said diplomatically. Humanity is willing to share our medical knowledge, but we want to do it in a way that benefits everyone fairly. Dr. Veltar's skin shifted to a darker green. And what would humanity want in return for this cooperation? The question hung in the air. Elena could see that they had reached a critical moment. Humanity had just revealed their most valuable biological asset to the galaxy. Now they had to decide how to use that leverage. Full council membership, Chen said finally. Equal status in all galactic institutions. Access to advanced technologies. Protection under galactic law. That's quite a list, observed President Thex Moran, who had been listening quietly from the side of the room. It's a fair trade, Chen replied. Humanity offers a solution to one of the galaxy's biggest medical problems. In return, we ask for equal partnership in the galactic community. Elena watched the alien delegates considering Chen's words. She could see calculations happening behind their eyes. How valuable was human regenerative medicine? What were they willing to give up for it? There's another consideration, Elena said quietly. This research could benefit humanity too. If we could understand why our livers regenerate while other organs don't, we might be able to enhance our own medical capabilities. Dr. Kethavar nodded thoughtfully. A joint research initiative. Humans provide biological samples and expertise. Other species contribute advanced research technologies and different scientific perspectives. The Galactic Medical Research Initiative, suggested Dr. Veltar. A collaborative effort to understand and apply regenerative medicine across all species. Elena felt a surge of excitement. This was what she had dreamed of when she first learned about the galactic community. The chance to advance medical science on an unprecedented scale. But she also felt a nagging worry. Would humanity remain partners in this research, or would they become test subjects? The discovery that had started as a simple scientific presentation was rapidly becoming the most important political development in recent galactic history. The emergency session continued for several more hours, but Elena knew that the real decisions would be made in private meetings between species leaders. Humanity had just played their strongest card. Now they had to wait to see how the galaxy would respond. The diplomatic meeting rooms aboard the council station buzzed with activity for the next 48 hours. Elena barely slept as delegations from different species requested private meetings with the human representatives. Each group seemed to have their own agenda for how humanity's regenerative abilities should be used. Ambassador Chen had barely returned to his quarters when the first formal request arrived. The hegemony of Brass wanted a private audience. Elena accompanied Chen to the meeting, held in a room specially designed for the warrior species. The gravity was higher than Earth normal, and the air had a metallic taste. General Thokran, the highest-ranking Brass military officer on the station, dominated the room. His armor was more elaborate than the other Brass delegates, with intricate engravings that seemed to tell stories of battles won. When he spoke, his voice rumbled through the translation system like distant thunder. "Humans," he began without preamble. "The hegemony has a proposal." Elena exchanged glances with Chen. The directness was typical of the Brass, but it still caught her off guard. "We're listening," Chen replied diplomatically. "Our warriors face constant exposure to combat toxins, chemical weapons, industrial pollutants, radiation. Our current medical technology cannot keep pace with the damage," General Thokran explained. "Your regenerative abilities could change everything." The general activated a holographic display showing battlefield statistics. Elena watched as the numbers scrolled past. Casualty rates, medical discharge rates, reduced combat effectiveness due to organ damage. "We propose a military alliance," General Thokran continued. "The hegemony provides protection for human space, advanced weapons technology, training for your military forces. In exchange, humans provide medical support for our warriors." "What kind of medical support?" Elena asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. "Liver transplants from human donors to Brass warriors. Regular treatments using human regenerative techniques, perhaps even genetic therapy to give our people similar abilities." Elena felt her stomach drop. "General, cross-species organ transplants would be extremely dangerous. We don't know if human organs would function properly in Brass physiology." "We are willing to take that risk," the general replied. "The hegemony has always valued courage over caution." Chen stepped forward. "We appreciate the offer, General, but humanity needs time to consider all our options. This is a complex decision that affects our entire species." General Thokran's armor plates shifted as he leaned forward. "Other species are making similar proposals. The Merchant Guild offers economic partnerships. The Technosynthesis Union promises advanced biotechnology. You would be wise to choose allies carefully." As they left the meeting, Elena felt overwhelmed by the implications. "Chen, they're talking about using humans like living medical factories." "I know," Chen replied grimly. "And they're not the only ones." The next meeting proved Elena's fears correct. The Merchant Guild of Vega had prepared an elaborate presentation in their luxurious conference room. Representatives from dozens of trading species filled the space, their eyes gleaming with opportunity. Trader Zixmel, A tall, thin being with 4 arms and skin like polished silver led the presentation. Esteemed humans, we see tremendous commercial potential in your biological capabilities. The holographic displays showed trade routes spanning the galaxy, with projected profit margins that made Elena dizzy. Consider the applications, Trader Zixmel continued. Medical tourism to human worlds, biological processing facilities using human liver tissue, toxin filtering services for industrial operations. The revenue potential is astronomical. You're talking about commercializing human biology, Elena said, unable to hide her disgust. We're talking about mutual prosperity, replied another trader, this one resembling a large, intelligent octopus. Humans provide biological services. We provide economic infrastructure and galactic market access. Humans would become the wealthiest species in the galaxy within a generation, added Trader Zixmel. Your people would never want for anything. Chen listened politely to the entire presentation before responding. We'll consider your proposal along with all the others. As they walked back through the station corridors, Elena vented her frustration. They're all treating us like we're some kind of resource to be exploited. No one is talking about genuine scientific cooperation. That's not entirely true, Chen said. The Techno-Synthesis Union had a different approach. The meeting with Dr. Veltar and the Synthesis Union delegation took place in a laboratory setting rather than a conference room. The atmosphere was more collaborative, focused on scientific exchange rather than political maneuvering. Humans represent a unique evolutionary path, Dr. Veltar explained, as they examined holographic models of various biological systems. Most species either remain primitive with basic regenerative abilities, or evolve technologically and lose those biological functions. Elena found herself genuinely interested in the scientific discussion. So humans are unusual because we develop technology while keeping our biological capabilities? Precisely. This suggests that human biology might be compatible with technological enhancement in ways we haven't seen before. Dr. Veltar replied, Imagine combining human regenerative abilities with our biotechnology. We could create healing systems that work for multiple species. What are you proposing? Chen asked. Joint research facilities, shared scientific knowledge, equal partnerships in developing new medical technologies, Dr. Veltar said. Not exploitation of human biology, but collaboration to benefit all species. Elena felt hopeful for the first time since the meetings began. This sounds more like what we had in mind. But their optimism was short-lived. The next day brought a delegation that Elena hadn't expected, the Purist Coalition. The Purists were a political faction within the galactic community that believed in genetic and technological superiority. Their leader, a being called Arch-Purist Zenthok, looked like a perfect fusion of organic and mechanical parts. Half of his face was living tissue, while the other half was gleaming cybernetics. The human discovery troubles us, Arch-Purist Zenthok declared, without any diplomatic pleasantries. Biological regeneration is a primitive function. Advanced species should rely on technological solutions. Elena bristled at the insult. There's nothing primitive about our biology. It's a sophisticated system that your technology can't replicate. Precisely our point, Zenthok replied. Your species clings to crude biological functions instead of embracing technological evolution. This regression cannot be allowed to influence galactic medical standards. Chen stepped between Elena and the Purist leader. What exactly are you saying? The Purist Coalition believes that humanity's biological capabilities should be studied and then replaced with proper technological solutions. We cannot allow the galaxy to step backward into biological dependency. You want to eliminate human regenerative abilities? Elena asked, horrified. We want to improve them, Zenthok corrected. Replace unreliable biological processes with efficient technological ones. Transform humans into properly evolved beings. The meeting ended quickly after that. Elena was too angry to continue listening to the Purist propaganda. That evening, Elena sat in her quarters trying to process everything that had happened. In just 3 days, humanity had gone from being minor players in galactic politics to being the center of attention for dozens of species. But almost every proposal treated humans as a means to an end rather than as equal partners. Ambassador Chen knocked on her door. Elena, we need to talk about our response to all these proposals. I don't like any of them, Elena said immediately. The military wants to use us as living organ donors. The merchants want to commercialize our biology. The purists want to eliminate what makes us human. What about the synthesis union? Chen asked. Elena considered the question. Dr. Veltar seems genuine about scientific cooperation, but I'm worried about what happens when economic and political pressures start affecting the research. Chen sat down across from her. Elena, I want to propose something different. What if we took control of the situation ourselves? What do you mean? What if humanity made its own proposal? Instead of choosing between their offers, we present our own vision for how this discovery should be used. Elena felt a spark of interest. Go on. Tomorrow's scheduled for final presentations from all the interested parties. What if we use that time to propose the Galactic Medical Research Initiative? A truly cooperative project where every species contributes their expertise and everyone benefits from the results. Elena thought about the idea. It was ambitious, maybe even naive, but it was also the first proposal that treated humanity as an equal partner, rather than a valuable resource. Do you think the Council will accept it? She asked. I think they'll have to, Chen replied, because the alternative is a bidding war for human biology that could tear the galactic community apart. Elena realized he was right. The discovery of human regenerative abilities had created a political crisis. Multiple factions were competing for access to humanity's biological capabilities. If they couldn't find a cooperative solution, the result could be conflict on a galactic scale. All right, Elena said finally. Let's propose something better. They spent the rest of the night drafting humanity's counter-proposal. It would be the most important presentation. 6 months after Elena's presentation that changed everything, she stood in the medical bay of Research Station Harmony. Through the large observation window, she watched as Dr. Kethvar and his team performed the first successful liver regeneration treatment on a Zephyrian scientist named Veldash. The Zephyrian had been injured in a laboratory accident 3 weeks earlier. Exposure to experimental chemicals had severely damaged his liver function. Under normal circumstances, Veldash would have faced a slow, painful death as his body's filtration systems failed. Instead, he was receiving a treatment that combined human regenerative medicine with advanced galactic biotechnology. Elena watched as the medical team used crystalline bioscanners to monitor cellular activity while synthesis union nano-enhancers accelerated the healing process. Cellular regeneration is proceeding normally, reported Dr. Kethvar through the communication system. New liver tissue is growing at 3 times the normal human rate thanks to the enhancement protocols. Elena smiled as she made notes on her tablet. The Galactic Medical Research Initiative had exceeded even her most optimistic expectations. What had started as her simple presentation about human biology had become the largest cooperative scientific project in recorded galactic history. The morning after the political meetings with various species, Elena and Ambassador Chen had presented their counterproposal to the full council. Instead of choosing between the competing offers, humanity had proposed something unprecedented, a truly cooperative medical research initiative. The problem with all the proposals we've heard, Elena had told the assembled delegates, is that they treat human biology as a commodity to be traded. But science works best when knowledge is shared freely. She had activated her presentation display, showing a network diagram that connected research stations across the galaxy. We propose the Galactic Medical Research Initiative. Every species contributes their unique biological and technological capabilities. Everyone benefits from the discoveries. The initial reaction had been skeptical. The Merchant Guild complained about lost profit opportunities. The hegemony of brass worried about giving away military advantages. The Purist Coalition dismissed the entire concept as biological regression. But Dr. Kethvar had stood up to support the proposal. This approach offers the greatest potential for scientific advancement, he had argued. Competitive hoarding of medical knowledge serves no one. President Thexmoran had asked the critical question, what specific contributions would each species make to this initiative? Elena had been ready with detailed answers. Humanity provides regenerative biology expertise and volunteers for carefully controlled research studies. The Crystalline Collective contributes their advanced bioscanning technology. The Synthesis Union offers their biotechnology and nano-enhancement systems. She had continued around the room, identifying unique capabilities that each major species could contribute. The Zephyrian Collective brings their expertise in neural networks and group consciousness healing. The archivists provide their vast databases of medical knowledge accumulated over millennia. Even the hegemony of brass has valuable contributions, Elena had added. Looking directly at General Thokran, your experience with combat medicine and toxin exposure could help us understand how regenerative treatments work under extreme conditions. The debate had continued for hours, but gradually the tide had turned. Species that had initially been skeptical began to see the advantages of cooperation over competition. The proposal offered benefits that none of them could achieve alone. The breakthrough had come when the archivist delegation announced their support. The preservation and advancement of knowledge serves the good of all species, their eldest representative had declared. We pledge our support to this initiative. One by one, other species had joined the consensus. The Synthesis Union committed their biotechnology resources. The Crystalline Collective offered their research facilities. Even the hegemony of brass agreed to participate, though they negotiated for priority access to treatments for their warriors. Only the Purist Coalition had refused to participate, maintaining their position that biological solutions were inferior to technological ones, but they were outvoted by the rest of the Council. The formal establishment of the Galactic Medical Research Initiative had been approved by an overwhelming majority. Funding came from the Council's scientific research budget, supplemented by voluntary contributions from member species. Research stations were established in orbit around a dozen worlds, each specializing in different aspects of regenerative medicine. Elena had been offered the position of Director of Interspecies Medical Research. It was the most important scientific position in the galaxy, and she had accepted it with a mixture of excitement and terror. The first research breakthrough had come within 2 months. Dr. Veltar's team had successfully identified the specific cellular signals that triggered liver regeneration in humans. They had then developed a way to enhance those signals using Synthesis Union biotechnology. The enhanced regeneration process was faster and more efficient than natural human healing. More importantly, it worked across species barriers. With careful preparation and monitoring, other species could benefit from treatments based on human regenerative biology. The success with Veldash was the first full-scale test of the new treatment protocols. As Elena watched through the observation window, she saw the Zephyrian scientist sitting up in his medical bed, looking healthier than he had in weeks. Dr. Kethvar emerged from the medical bay, removing his protective gear. The treatment is a complete success, he reported to Elena. Veldash's liver function has returned to normal levels. The regenerated tissue is fully integrated and functioning. Elena felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. How long until he can return to his normal activities? Another week of observation, then full release, Dr. Kethvar replied. This proves that our cross-species treatment protocols are viable. The implications were enormous. Liver disease, which had been one of the leading causes of death across the galaxy, was now treatable. The research stations were already working on similar treatments for other organ systems. Elena's communication device chimed with an incoming message from Earth. It was from Dr. Martinez at the Earth Medical Institute, reporting on their latest research progress. Elena, we've had a breakthrough with kidney regeneration. Dr. Martinez's voice came through the speaker. Using the enhancement techniques developed at your station, we've successfully regenerated kidney tissue in human volunteers. The treatment is ready for broader testing. Elena smiled as she recorded her response. The cooperation between Earth-based researchers and the galactic stations was producing results faster than anyone had anticipated. Her next meeting was with the Council's Science Advisory Committee. As she walked through the corridors of Research Station Harmony, Elena reflected on how much had changed in just 6 months. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human architectural concepts had been combined with crystalline construction techniques and Synthesis Union biotechnology. The result was a facility that was both beautiful and functional, designed to accommodate researchers from dozens of different species. Elena entered the main conference room to find representatives from 12 species gathered around the holographic planning table. They were reviewing proposals for the next phase of research expansion. Director Vasquez greeted Dr. Veltar, who had become her closest collaborator. We've received approval for 15 new research stations across the galaxy. Elena took her seat at the table, still amazed that beings from across the galaxy looked to her for scientific leadership. What are our priority research areas? Heart regeneration for the brass warriors, reported the hegemony representative. Brain tissue repair for the archivists. Respiratory system enhancement for species that struggle with oxygen-poor environments. We've also received requests from 17 species not currently represented in the initiative, added Dr. Kethvar. Word of our success is spreading throughout the galaxy. Elena nodded. The success of the Galactic Medical Research Initiative was creating its own momentum. Species that had initially been skeptical were now eager to participate. There's one more item, said President Thex Morin, who attended the meetings as the Council's official liaison. The Purist Coalition has requested a meeting with you, Director Vasquez. Elena was surprised. The Purists had remained adamantly opposed to the Biological Research Initiative. What do they want? They wouldn't say specifically, but I suspect they're reconsidering their position, President Thex Moran replied. Our medical successes are difficult to argue with. The meeting with Archpurist Zenthok took place the following day. Elena was surprised to find that he had brought along several Purist scientists and engineers. Director Vasquez, Zenthok began, his cybernetic eye focusing on her with mechanical precision. The Purist Coalition wishes to discuss potential participation in your research initiative. Elena kept her expression neutral, though she was shocked by the reversal. I thought your coalition believed biological solutions were primitive. We have observed the results of your research,